Anthony Lamacchia, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here. It's funny for me, I listened to you every day 20 years ago, 25 years ago, driving around in my truck when I was landscaping.
Yeah.
And here I am sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
And I actually heard you on this morning. You made some funny points this morning about, what did you say? If you're in early communicating with someone that you might have a relationship with, if they don't have the time to get back to you, they don't like you. I was laughing.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty funny.
That's the lesson, Moose. If you, Moose is single.
Yeah.
If you're talking to a girl, and it's like such a basic thing, but people don't get it. You're into this girl. If she's into you, when you text her, she's going to text
you back.
Right away. I don't care how busy she is. She's going to text you back.
But that's the same for all different parts of life, like sales situations. And,
yeah.
If people are interested, they're going to show it, and they're going to make time.
Yeah.
Right? And if they're not, then they're not.
But there's people out there who don't get the message. They're like, oh, sorry, I've been busy or whatever. And it's like, that's the pattern. Constantly doing that. And you're like, they really like me. No, they don't like you. They like you when it's convenient for them.
Exactly. But thanks for having me.
Yeah. Did you hear about, Moose and I were just talking about this, about the pyramids in Egypt? Okay. So, this is beautiful. So, according to history, the pyramids were built by slaves. The slaves brought these giant stones, dragged them like 900 miles, and created the pyramids in this beautiful, perfect, mathematically accurate shape and all that stuff.
Yep.
So these scientists just used radar where they could look. I'm going to really explain it in a basic way, but I just showed it to you, Moose.
Topography,
yeah. So that can look underground, through the ground to see what's there. They found another chamber that they didn't know about. That's not the big deal. Under this chamber, they found 8 basically cylinder-type columns with almost like spirals around each one on top of these other massive blocks that are about close to 5 times as big as the actual pyramid on top.
So it tells us that maybe the pyramid was the top of something much larger.
Yes, and it tells us there's no way in hell. That's something that with all of our computer technology and brilliant engineers now, they probably couldn't do. But back then, they did it. There's no way in hell that was just some guy who was like, get the slaves over here and have them build this. So now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just like to learn about things.
Yeah.
And I love hearing about civilizations and stuff. And I'm convinced that instead of the way how human civilization, instead of us just like growing from like, a stash of molecules and slowly turning into
monkeys
and Neanderthals, all that stuff. I'm thinking that there was an advanced civilization millions, billions of years ago that maybe got wiped out.
Yeah.
And then we just started over.
Yeah.
Instead of just like a big linear thing. I'll show you later the pictures.
Well, and that tells me that we're definitely screwed. I mean, it's going to happen again.
100%. Is
it going to happen in our life? Is it going to happen in some other life? Grandkids? Who knows? But we'll enjoy it while we can.
The world's definitely going to reset at some point. It's just don't happen anytime soon. That's all.
Right.
Right. We're enjoying life.
It's funny.
The real estate market's it's getting back. It's getting good, right?
I look at 2025. We had our annual event a month ago, and I said this is going to be the year that things start to pivot back in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I feel strongly about that. I still see signs of that. There's a number of reasons for that. The down cycle can only last so long. I mean, just to give you some numbers, like here in Massachusetts, historically, the last 30 years, about 93,000 homes a year sell in Massachusetts between singles, multis, and condos, right? Last year, 60,000 sold. The year before, 60,000. I think there was like 150 or I don't know, maybe it was 400 more homes sold in 24 than 23. When the norm is 93,000. That's insanely low, and it can't last forever. So that's one of the reasons that I see like it's going to head back to normal. The other is, the economy is since last summer showing signs of breaking, where before it was harder for people to see with normal statistics. I remember they put out that corrected jobs report last August and said, oh, by the way, we've screwed up our jobs reports for the last year and a half. There's 864,000 jobs that were overstated. And if you remember right, stock market went down late last August of 24 into September. When stock market goes down, rates go down. Mortgage rates go down. and then it makes it easier for them to lower the Fed funds rate. So there's a number of reasons that I see it, that this is going to kind of be like the 2012. 2012 was the year that it was like, all right, it's not great again yet, but it looks like we're headed back to some sense of normalcy. 13, it was like, all right, it's official. We're in recovery mode. I believe 26 is going to be the 13. Okay. 25 is going to be the 2012, and I already see signs of it.
So you said it went from 93 to 60. Is that why houses got like stupid expensive and people were basically
interest rate. Nothing screwed things up more than than inflation and interest rates.
Okay.
There's no question. I mean, think about it. 3 years ago right now, in March of 2022, rates were up a little bit. They started creeping up around this time into the 3s, 3.5. I think it might even got up a little high 3s. Then we got to May 23rd of 2022, and rates went up 1 point from May 23rd to June 10th. And when that happened, the market shut down. And I shouldn't say shut down, but it slowed down dramatically.
Yeah.
So why does that happen? Well, if you have a 2.8% mortgage rate, it's pretty hard to give that up and trade that for a 7%.
100%.
And that's exactly why sales slowed down dramatically. So we are actually in a housing recession, and we've been in one. What confuses people is they say, but I heard there's multiple offers on homes. Yeah, no shit, because there's nothing for sale.
Yeah.
So whatever comes up for sale, not nothing, but very little.
Right.
Whatever comes up for sale, everybody's jumping on, fighting over. It creates a multiple offer situation, and that's what's driven prices up. So the inventory, when I say inventory, the amount of homes for sale in Massachusetts, really the country, especially the northern states, kind of got a double whammy. When COVID first hit, a lot of people, particularly those over 60, who own the larger homes that have been lived in for 30 years where they raised their families, they took their homes off the market and they stopped listing. That was the first wave of inventory going down.
Yeah.
Then fast forward 2 years after, rates change. More people say, forget it. I'm not going to sell my home and give up my rate.
Right.
Now we've been stuck in this cycle. Now, as I sit in front of you here today in late March of 25, there is more homes for sale right now than there was the last 5 years at this exact time. Okay? So it is getting better. And I think that's going to get better and better, and more people are going to list. And then as rates come down, it'll get a lot better. And I think we're nearing the end. We're probably beginning of the fourth quarter in this high rate environment. I think we're getting there.
Yeah. Do you think house prices are going to go down, or
places like Florida, Texas, Arizona? Yes, they don't deal with the seasonality like we do. Up here in the northern states, people generally don't list their homes in the winter. In masses. Obviously, we list homes every day of the year, and then come spring, summer, people list more. So places like those, there's higher inventory, and we are seeing prices go down. Yeah. Massachusetts, I don't see prices going down. I mean, maybe they'll stop going up for a couple years. If there was some decrease, it would be small. I mean, the last time we saw any substantial amount of prices going down was the 2007 to 2010 era, okay?
Yeah.
Right now, in late March of 2008, and realtors that are listening, go look it up, there were 40,000 homes for sale in Massachusetts. At this month, 2008. Right now, there's about 8,000.
Wow.
So think about that. We had 5 times the amount of homes for sale at that time, and that's why the whole system fell apart, because there was just too much supply. When there's too much supply, too many choices for buyers, what happens to a product? Price goes down. It's no different than oil. It's no different than anything else. Now, where we're in a situation where pricing not only has held strong but has gone up, it's because there isn't much for sale.
Yeah.
What
about interest rates? Do you think how low do you think
interest rates will come down?
You think they're going to go down
to? No question. Yeah, no, I don't think
to like the 3.
I have my doubts when it comes to 2s and 3s, but there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to get back into the 4s and 5s.
Okay,
it might take 2 more years. Yeah. I think we'll see. Let me take that back. I think we'll see 5s within a year.
Really,
high 5s. I do.
Okay, because I kind of like this. How good are you with your predictions?
I'm insanely good with my predictions.
Are you really?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Particularly with home sales, total home sales pricing, I'm extremely good at it. Rates, I would say 75% of the time I'm right, and I have to give a shout out to my senior advisor, Jerry Bourgeois, who is the best mortgage interest rate predictor that I've ever met in my life, ever seen. He's been more accurate than Jamie Dimon, than Brian Moynihan, than the Fed. I've never seen anybody predict rates like this guy. And he predicted 2 years ago when they started going up, it wasn't going to just be a few months, and he was clearly right.
I think that's one of the reasons that you're so successful is because you
I study the market.
And you recognize patterns.
Yeah.
And once you start recognizing, and anything in life, once you start recognizing people's patterns or just patterns, cycles of how things go, you can start adjusting to take advantage of it.
Correct. And that's why we pivoted as a company, because we knew the market was going to get bad for a while, and we started buying other companies. But I can elaborate on what you said, and I appreciate the credit. And, I'm not always right, and I'm not always perfect or anything like that. I'm very rarely perfect on things, but my predictions for housing are generally pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of when I made a prediction, and I went totally against the grain. And you can look it up on Facebook. You can Google the blog. Anyone listening, if you want to Google, this is not 2008, the number 2008. We put a blog out that I wrote with my, helpers like Jerry and others in March of 2008, or maybe it was April of 2020 when COVID hit. When COVID hit, prices are going to fall. The world's going to end. I was watching housing inventory going down in those first few weeks of COVID. Right now, 5 years ago, I said, how the hell are prices going to go down if the amount of homes for sale is going down? So I went on a Facebook Live, and I did a whole segment on this blog that I had written with all kinds of reports, and I said, prices are absolutely not going to go down. Prices are not going to fall out because inventory is low, and I went on to explain it. Now, I will admit, this is where my prediction was right but not perfect. I did not see 40% increases in prices coming when I did that.
Yeah.
But I said they're not going down. I hang up from the live. My dad calls me. He goes, hey, I just heard you on that Facebook thing. I go, okay. He goes, yeah, he mentioned his wife. I grabbed her phone, and I was listening to you. You said there's no way housing prices are going down. He goes, the Wall Street Journal yesterday had a big article how they're going down. I said, yeah, they're wrong. He goes, you know better than the Wall Street Journal. I said, yes, Dad. I know better than that one reporter that wrote that one article. And I was right. And I think that was really when everyone realized that I really understand housing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Most people, and this is a good sales tip for those listening, and I deal with this in I was just in a meeting with two different personalities. I got salespeople on my executive team, and I have, back office gurus that study numbers.
Yeah.
I ride right in the middle.
Right.
Naturally, truthfully, I'm a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
But I have such a hard work ethic, and that I know if I learn the data and learn the information inside out, I will be better at sales. That's where most salespeople fall short. Is they're like, nah, I don't need those details. I'll just sell. Yeah, okay, you'll sell. You might be better than your peers, but you'll hit a ceiling. You'll hit a ceiling. Even the best realtors, they sell 50 homes a year. If you sell 50 homes a year, you're a star realtor. But if you stay there for 10 years, that's a ceiling.
Right.
And to break through, you have to beat your competition in every phase of the game. And that's what I work to do. I don't necessarily do it, but I work hard to do it every day.
Yeah. So you started off as a realtor.
Oh, yeah.
And
2004.
And at what point did you stop selling houses and start becoming
2011.
That's when did you enjoy the selling the houses and buying houses or?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it like I enjoyed running the company and building the company.
Right.
I'm more of I would say, even though I'm a realtor at heart, I'm more of a businessman than I am a practitioner.
And that's why you're successful. I've always had this discussion with people. I'll have friends who we work out at the gym together, and they're like, I want to open up a gym, and I say, don't do it. Why? I go, because you want a place where you can just work out a lot and hang out with people. There's business aspect of it that you're not thinking about. And I think a lot of people, I really enjoy cutting hair. I'm going to open up a salon. I really enjoy doing this. I'm going to do this. I think a lot of those people fail because they can't, I don't know if it's
a big difference.
It's easier for you to separate when you're looking at it as a business.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, I really enjoy buying and selling houses.
And don't get me wrong. I think being a realtor and being a real estate agent is a great thing. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I'd say my core competency and what I enjoyed most is growing and running the business. But what you're describing is the old player-coach thing. I remember when I was a kid, I can't remember what team. I don't remember who it was, but I remember my grandfather, there was a basketball player, I think, that became a coach. My grandfather was like, they're not going to be a good coach. And I'm like, what do you mean? He was the greatest player.
Exactly.
And I was probably 14 or something, and my grandfather's like, that doesn't mean shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach. It's two different jobs.
Yeah.
And, Belichick talks about that, right?
Yeah. How many awesome players have been awesome coaches? Not that many.
Correct.
A lot of times it's mediocre players
Yeah.
who busted their ass. Because when you're like, in sports terms, if you were an awesome player, not that things came easy to you, but if you're watching somebody, if you're trying to coach someone else, deep down you're like, why can't you get this?
Yeah.
I got this. Why can't you?
I knew that for me to build a real estate business, I had to be a good practitioner.
Yeah.
I knew that I had to be good at being a realtor, and I did it. But truthfully, when I was doing it with a mindset of I'm going to build a company.
Right.
Like the whole time.
Yeah.
But I really obsessed with it. I traveled the country. I mean, I can remember flying. Here's an interesting story. November 2005, I fly out to Palm Desert, California. And I go to a conference. I don't know one person. Now I go to conferences. I need a break from the conference.
Yeah.
Right?
Was it like a realtor conference?
It was a realtor conference.
Okay.
I didn't know one person. I didn't know the teachers. I didn't know the agent. I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen now, right? Now I go to my room and hide sometimes for a break. But I go to that, and I'll tell you something that happened. It's an interesting story. When people ask me, how did you end up on television, which probably something you'll ask me here, so I'll just, do you want me to explain it?
Yeah, how did you end up on television?
I get to the conference. They had so many people at this conference that at breakfast, the line was like 100 yards long. And I heard the manager of the restaurant say, this isn't going to work. People are going to have to sit with people they don't know. And this is at the beautiful JW Marriott in Palm Springs. Place is gorgeous. I was there 3-4 years ago. And he said, people are going to have to sit with people they don't know. So they started going through the line. Do you mind sitting with someone you know? I said, sure, I'll sit. And I'm like, I don't have a damn friend at the conference. Sounds good.
Yeah.
They bring me to the back of the restaurant. They say to this gentleman, do you mind sitting with this gentleman? I said, hi, you're Jeff? Oh, I'm Anthony. Nice to meet you. I sit down, sitting right across from the guy. Fast talker, good guy, likable guy. He's telling me how his wife's a realtor. He helps her. He's in mortgage. And they started doing television ads, and it really helped their business. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I tell him my background. He's, of course, looking across the table like this kid's a landscaper, right? I'm 24 years old. I'm still doing landscaping with my dad at that time, but I was getting into real estate. The next day, his wife goes out on stage, and they're talking about how she's going to sell 240 homes that year because of her television ads that she's running in Tucson, Arizona, Marcy Willems. I'm like, holy shit. I leave the conference. I go home. January comes. And I get the RE/MAX Times because I was a RE/MAX realtor. I get the RE/MAX Times. They used to put out it was actually a really good newspaper that they sent out once a month to all their realtors. And I read it. You know, I read massive amounts of content every day, news, reports. I'm now nonstop.
Yeah.
And front page, Marcy Willems, Rookie of the Year, RE/MAX, Tucson, Arizona, credits television ads. I'm like, oh my God. I met her husband. She was on stage. So this is like probably late January. I reach out to him. We have a conversation. We have another conversation. I fly out there in May. I film my first ever ad. If I don't sell your home in 70 days, I'll buy it. Right? That was how I started. Me and my ex-business partner, John. Great guy. Still friends to this day. And filmed the first ad. It started running in July, which when I look back, I'm like, that was slow execution. Should have been faster. But anyway, TV ad starts in July. Phone starts ringing. By the time we get into 07, homes weren't selling. So that was May 06 when I filmed the ad.
Yeah.
July 06, I started doing the television ads. By 07, the market had slowed down. Economy was getting hit. Homes weren't selling. Inventory of homes for sale was going up. I didn't even know it at the time, but I was so lucky my timing of that ad, hence why it worked for Jeff in Arizona, because inventory was going up. People were having trouble selling homes. And I'm on TV, 25 years old, saying, if I don't sell your home in 70 days, I'll buy it. And the phone went ballistic. And that was really what took off my career. And I did listing appointments, meeting with sellers. And remember, anybody who calls after that ad, they're a motivated client. They're motivated to sell. They're real. They're not just putting their toe in the water. They actually want to sell their home. So from 2007 to 2011, I did 2009. It was like 2.5 year period where I did 2 to 3 listing appointments a day, 4 to 5 days a week. I was just signing up sellers like mad, listing just like a machine. And my business partner, to his credit, he was too. In fact, he was signing up even more because I was a little more like the business guy running the business. Mm-hmm. And then it weaned down. Then the market got in bad shape. People were upside down in their homes. We learned how to help them with that. I was a student of like, how do I fix this? I could go on, but I figured out how to do that. And then we scaled it. And then I bought them out in 2014 and converted the company to a brokerage model in 2015, and here we are today.
Did he have the same business, like I want to turn this into a giant business vision like you? Or
I wouldn't say the same. I mean, my visions are usually more grandiose and oftentimes unrealistic than others.
Yeah.
But I had a much bigger plan with wanting to be a brokerage, and he didn't really share that plan. And we didn't necessarily have disagreements. He was a great guy. But I had that vision of what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring in realtors from other companies. I wanted to bring other companies in with us and grow a brokerage. And I wanted to share with them all the knowledge that I had achieved from attending conferences, doing mass amounts of business. I mean, I was the number one realtor in Massachusetts at 28 years old.
I don't remember. I mean,
I was selling more homes than anyone else in a year in 2009.
But I don't remember really seeing ads from realtors.
No, it was just me. It was just us.
Before yours.
It was just us.
Yeah.
That was it.
Like, it was
crazy.
Here, there's a lot of, like, you know, local people who, like, kind of brand themselves with their business. But it was mostly furniture stores and car dealer guys.
Yeah.
You were the first, like, realtor to do it.
Yeah. And then, you know, speaking of furniture, Elliot Tatelman, I remember we went. And before I bought out my business partner, John and I went to see Elliot, and he was so gracious. He had us into his headquarters down in Taunton and gave us a lot of advice on TV advertising and advertising as a whole. And we kind of just like modeled them. And then I bought John out in September of 2014, and I still admire those people. I mean, Herb Chambers, I saw he sold his company, and I know Herb, and I would bump into Herb at events, you know, over the years, and he would always say the same thing to me: "Don't stop, keep advertising, keep advertising, keep advertising." You know, it was kind of his motto, and clearly it worked for Herb, and that's why we do it.
Did you change it up a little bit when social media blew up as far as advertising? Now you're doing.
I did, and so it's kind of twofold. In 2011, we started putting out a lot of housing content. You know, I have a motto, and I'm sure you have a lot of business owners that listen to this, so maybe this could help them. But I always say, when you educate, you attract.
Yeah.
So whatever business you're in, when you're educating about that, you know, I don't care if you're selling desks or chairs or printers or TVs or microphones, when you educate your consumer audience, you're naturally going to attract them to you. So really started turning up the social media with respect to targeting consumers from 2011 to 2017. We hired someone, Marguerite McGrail. I love her. She's not with us anymore, but she was awesome. She helped me, taught me the content game, taught me like write blogs, do housing reports, and that was tremendous. And it helped us a lot with bringing in, you know, just a higher caliber of buyer and seller because remember, when the market was bad, the guaranteed sale program worked. When the market started getting better in 2012, 13, 14, people were like, I don't need that ad. I don't need that guaranteed sale.
Yeah.
And there's always a percentage of people that thought it was bullshit, right?
How many did you actually
We bought 2 homes.
That's it?
That's it. We probably guaranteed, on that program, 25, and there was a criteria. Like, they had a price realistically. If it didn't sell, they had to adjust their price. And we were a little strict with the criteria because naturally we didn't want to have to buy 10 homes.
Right.
But oftentimes what would happen is sellers would say, I don't want to agree with that program, but I love your marketing, so I'll list you anyway. I'll list with you anyway. I just don't want to do that program.
Okay.
So we still got the listings.
What about you know those?
Then we did another one.
I buy ugly houses.
Yeah.
Is that like a legit thing? Or
oh yeah. And we did some of that, not through them, but we did some of that too. But then let me finish something.
Yeah.
So then in 2015, we had all that snow that year. 10 years ago, we ran. If we don't sell your home in 32 days, we'll sell it for free. That was a home run. That was one spurt. It was in that bad winter. The ads were running like crazy. The fall of 14 rates had spiked, so the market was slow. Homes weren't selling as well. There was like a blip on the radar, and I hit it just right. And I remember I spent, I don't care, I'll share it, probably spent $300,000 on television ads that spring, and we brought in like $4 million in commissions off of that program.
Holy shit.
Well, yeah, your commercials, I feel like they're part of like New England lore. It's like you and like Herb Chambers,
Ernie Bach.
It's like if you grew up watching TV and it's like you guys were just like, you know.
Well, thank you for saying that. I don't think I'm on any of those guys' levels, but I appreciate you seeing the comparison, and it works. I mean, when people say to me, does TV work? Does radio work? I'm like, are these people serious?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't always work perfectly from a direct response perspective. Like right now, my TV ads do not produce nearly what they produced years ago. But if you see what I'm doing with Channel 7 right now, WHDH, we have a 2-minute segment that I do every week, and I give a real estate update. You're shaking your head. You must see it.
Yeah.
I do a real estate update. I say what's going on in the market. I say to buyers, hey, there's a lot of multiple offers right now. To get yourself ready, do this, do that. And, those opportunities have been given to me because of years of relationships with the stations, but more so They know I put out good content. They see my videos. But let me get back to the social media thing.
Yeah.
So we did a ton of social geared at consumers, and it helped a lot. But then in 2017, I hired a coach who I was just texting with, John Cheplack, great guy, a dear friend. And he said to me, hey, I heard you're a good speaker. I heard you're a great trainer of realtors, but I don't really know. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm great. He's like, no, I don't know because you don't put any videos. He goes, why don't you do videos and tease your training? And that's when my Crush It in Real Estate platform was born. And I started putting out training videos on that platform. And I had 1,000 followers in the first week. Now, between Facebook and Insta and all these different places, I mean, we have over 100,000 followers, well, way more than that, with a realtor audience.
Yeah.
And that really helped me recruit because they realized, okay, this guy might know what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
That was helpful.
I feel like some old school people that what you're doing, they might look at that as like, I'm not going to give away my secrets for free. But
I had a little of that thought.
Did you really?
Yeah, at the time.
What now? And what made you change your mind?
I got over it. You know, I realized share. You know, we're better off sharing. We're in a cooperating business. I mean, buyer's agents work with listing agents, and listing agents work with buyer agents, and I'm a people person, and I like to help people, and so I just started sharing, and I'm only sharing nuggets. I mean, it's obviously not nearly the level of training they would get by either buying our training or being a part of our company, but it's enough that they're like, hey, he's got a point, right?
Yeah, and we're just in a different time now where it's people have access to learn about stuff.
Correct.
I always talk about,
but they're still lazy about it.
They're super. And so now it's like, So now it's like you have to cut down the people who like are willing to get that information, and then once you get that group of people, how many of those are going to stick out?
Yeah.
To succeed. So it almost makes it better for you, maybe finding and recruiting talent.
Yeah.
As opposed to just getting someone who's like, I think I would like to sell a house.
Yeah, it does tend to draw in the hungrier people. The people that are watching my videos, the realtors that are watching my videos and obsessing and telling me, I watch every single one of your videos. I love the one you did the other day on blah, blah, blah. They tend to be a hungrier practitioner.
Yeah, it's so much. It's so funny how you said people are lazy because
they are.
Yeah, it's 100. The other day I was talking to a guy and I forget what YouTube channel he started, and he's like, "Oh, I got a YouTube channel on this," and I said, "How did you learn to make a YouTube channel?" He goes, I went on YouTube and there's a guy who teaches you how to make a YouTube channel. Yeah. It's there if you want it.
Correct. Everything is.
Yeah.
You got to go for it and you got to work. I always say, when I hear people say, "Oh, work smarter, not harder," I'm like, that's bullshit. You want to really get ahead, work smarter and harder.
Right.
Like the average person's working 40 hours a week, I think, which to me is like I do that by Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And that you might say, "Oh, that's crazy." I'm almost 44 years old, but like I have big plans. I want to do big things. Mm-hmm. And if I want to do that, I'm not going to just talk about it. I have to outwork my competition.
But what do you
and I have to outsmart them.
40 hours. Like, what is those 40 hours to you? What does that look like?
Like my days?
Yeah, because you're 40 hours. You're saying you're getting that done in less than a week.
Yeah.
What is that to you?
So it's a collection of some work from home in the early mornings. Before I get up in the morning to go work out, I always work at least 45 minutes. And I'll catch up on emails, plan out my day, check up on certain things, make sure they're getting done in the company. Then I go work out, come back, get on my computer for 10 minutes, eat breakfast, get on my computer for 10 minutes because I think of 3 more things, shower, get to the office. A week like this, let's see, where was I yesterday? I was on Cape Cod. I had to do a training there for about 60 agents at a Crush It in Real Estate training tour event that we put on. That's one of our companies. Mm. And let's see, in the morning I had some meetings. Wednesday I was up in our Beverly office. I put on a training up there. I had meetings with different members of our executive team before and after. Next week, I think I have an in-office day Monday, but then Tuesday I go to Washington, D.C. I'm the keynote speaker. You'll like this. I don't know if I'm the keynote. I'm one of the speakers. let me take the word back. I'm a speaker at the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals event in Washington, D.C. And they're going to have 1,100 realtors and housing advocates there, and they've asked me to come in and talk about a bunch of things. So that's Tuesday. So I fly to D.C. at 5:40 in the morning. I fly home at 3:50. Anybody is after me, now you know my flights. And then Wednesday's a training day. I forget what office I'm going to next week. Every Wednesday I go to a different office.
A lot more training nowadays.
Yeah, twice a week I'm in front of agents training, and I love it. I enjoy it. Friday morning I fly next week early down to Florida and go put on a training down there with agents, and there's a big realtor event. I'm going to that at night, fly back Saturday morning. So it's a busy schedule.
Yeah.
But for a hyperactive salesperson, hard-driving salesperson, I do sit on my computer and review reports, poke holes in them, point things out to our executives. Look for patterns.
Yeah.
Operate under a state of paranoia at all times.
Mm-hmm. That's healthy.
You have to.
That's
if you're running
healthy.
a business. Jackie Lou, our chief operating officer, is like, she's like my family now. She's fantastic. And I taught her when she got in the job 3 years ago. I said, trust nothing and question everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you, I don't care who gives you a report, you have to first look at it and go, number one, are these numbers right? Does this make sense? Because human error happens, and I will tell you, human error happens more when you have a larger company.
Mm-hmm.
Happens more. And we went through a massive growth spurt over the last couple of years in our company. We bought 10 companies. Last year, we grew our revenue by 44% in a down market, right?
Jesus.
This year, I don't think we're going to grow our revenue 44%. I think we'll probably grow it 20, 25.
Mm-hmm.
But we're really working hard to refine things, create more efficiencies. We're finding areas that we're duplicating things, and I'm digging in with the departments more than I have in 3 or 4 years. And when we're done with that, which is a pretty aggravating exercise, because one thing about owning a business, when you go looking for trouble, you'll find it, is when we're done with it, that's going to set us up for the next 5-8 years.
Yeah.
Right? And because the last time I went through this exercise that I'm going through now was 2016, 15, when I had bought John out in 14, and then I was focused on like adjusting the company and getting things right for the growth spurt. That set us on an 8-year spurt.
Yeah.
Well, now I feel like I'm back at that time, but with a larger company. And then remember, you got to make money along the way too to survive. If you don't make money a year or two, you should be able to handle it if you're running a good business, but you can't do that forever or you will go out of business.
This is a lesson for people who want to run businesses. It's funny because my wife just made partner at her law firm, right?
Oh, congrats to her.
Yeah, she's doing great. But she went to lunch with a friend of hers who said, "Oh, this is great. Now, you're a partner at the law firm. You get all this free time." And my wife stopped her and she said, "Free time? I'm working harder than I ever was before."
Ever.
Oh, really? I didn't know it was like that. And I think a lot of people have that mentality of if you're the owner that you're kind of just like.
Let me tell you something. My brother makes a very good observation. He is the president of our family's landscaping business, and he and I own it together now, but he runs the company, and he and I and the number 2 in that company, Rob, who's one of my closest friends, we meet every week or every other week, and we always go over like what's going on. We spend probably 45 minutes. But one thing my brother points out is he says he's realized that a lot of people get into having their own business so that they can have more free time. Which is insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Don't get your own business.
There's a video of Dana White talking about that. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
Dana's like, people think getting into your own business, you have more free time, you're in charge of your own schedule. He's like, you ain't in charge of shit with your schedule. You're going to work and you're going to think of work 24/7 until you sell and get out. And you either need to accept that life or, don't do it. I mean, because you're not going to do it successfully. In some ways, certain things have gotten a lot easier for me. I can intermingle fun and work together. A lot of times trips or family vacations are sort of like around my speaking gigs or whatever. And, this past weekend I was in Florida for the weekend with family, and I'm not going to say I didn't get some downtime. I fell asleep in a lounge a couple different times and, play with the kids and fish and stuff like that. But if I tried to tell you that I'm not always thinking of work, I'd be lying.
Right. But you have a passion for it, so it's like a different type of...
Oh, on a mission.
Yeah. Okay, so how successful do you want to be? Do you want to be like that guy who just bought the Celtics?
Yeah.
You want to buy sports team? You want that type of money?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
I do. Whether or not I achieve it remains to be seen, and God willing with health. But yes, I since I was very young... actually made the decision at about 5.5 years old, want to build an empire and want to do a lot of good in the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot of good things you can do when you build a company to that level and a business to that level. There's a lot of giving back you can do. There's a lot of people you can take care of. We were I don't know if you saw the last 2 years, #1 large company, Boston Globe, best places to work.
No shit.
Yeah.
How many employees do you have total?
In Lamacchia Realty, 80.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then you had property management and landscaping and all that, and then 80 here. We have 25 overseas, but you add it all together, it's 100 and something.
Yeah.
And then we have about 750 realtors.
Wait, what the hell?
We have overseas staff too.
Doing what?
Doing all back end things, making postcards, editing pictures, accounting. Entering. I mean, when you have this many people,
yeah.
I mean, just imagine doing like credit card entries. There's credit card charges happening all day long. Like there's money being spent all day. There's deposits coming in all day. I mean, last year we sold 4,764 homes. We had 989 rentals closed. We had 200 short-term rentals. We and we sold the property management properties, but we were doing it for 5 years, 7 years, and you're talking about thousands and thousands of transactions.
Yeah.
So we have a back office staff that works 6 days a week, 24 hours a day, which is huge. Our office managers come into the branch offices in the morning, and pictures that were done by our photographers the afternoon before are already edited and loaded up.
Yeah.
The uploading of certain things in the MLS system is already done. The brochures, the postcards, they're all waiting for the office managers. So when they get in, they can just make any edits that are needed, quality control them, hit approve. And I'll tell you something funny. One of our great realtors, Mark Belivo up in Chelmsford, when he started with us, this guy's got like the biggest heart. About a month in, he says, "Hey, I want to talk to you." I said, "What's up, Mark? Everything going okay with us?" I'm thinking he's not happy, something. Yeah. But I knew him for years. He goes, "I'm concerned about Erin. Erin's our rock star office manager for a few different offices, one of them being Chelmsford." And I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong with Erin?" I'm thinking he's going to tell me something. He goes, "Anthony, I don't think she has any downtime at night. I think she just works all night." I go, "Why?" And he said, "Anthony, I send stuff into her at 6 p.m, and by 8 a.m, it's totally ready for me." I said, "Mark, no worries. Overseas staff is doing that. And then she comes in 7:30, checks it all, and sends it to you, and you think she did it." He goes, "Oh, Jesus, I was worried about this girl." He goes, "Don't get me wrong. I loved it, but I was worried." But that's part of how we do what we do. I mean, our photographers, we have 5 full-time photographers.
Yeah.
They go out every day. They're doing photography, videography of properties. And they get into their van, these Lamacchia Realty vans. They plug into their tablet. Those pictures are going right to the sky. The floor plan of that property, the kind of like an inspection of the property. How many baths, how many this and that, goes right to the sky. People in the Philippines pull it down. They sort out what's what, and they get everything prepared. So it's a machine that never stops.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. We have to do that to be competitive. I mean, look, I am competing with very strong, worthy competitors. I mean, Coldwell Banker's been in business 140 years. They're a public company.
Yeah.
Right? Sotheby's. Sotheby's, a great luxury brand. Compass, I have to say, I had my doubts with Compass, but they've come on the block, and they have built a real company. Mm-hmm. They're public now. These are massive, very worthy competitors that we're competing with, and we have to work harder. We have to work smarter. We have to be more nimble. Right.
What's the company where this just happened recently, where one of the owners gambled all the money away and they just closed down from one day to the other?
Yeah, I know, and I know him, and I'm sorry that happened. It's a bad look in our industry. I can't fathom why someone in a financial lurch, which can happen to anyone in business, by the way.
Yeah.
I grew up in a business family, and I've seen it happen to my dad before. So I have compassion for that. I have true compassion for anyone that has a financial struggle in their business. And that was how I grew up, and that's part of why at 5.5 I decided I'd never be broke.
Right.
But why someone would go into an escrow account and take money out of it is unfathomable to me.
So
it sounds like that's what happened there.
Oh, so I was going to say, so it was that they needed money, or they were just,
I assume. I heard that I heard some gambling rumors, but it wasn't just that. The business model was a flawed business model. And I'll tell you, not that I'm here to defend them, but there's people in that company that knew it was a flawed business model, but they stayed there.
Really?
You get what you pay for. If you're at a company and you're getting a deal that is outrageously good, you have to say to yourself at some point, how is this financially working? How is this possible?
Yeah.
And he gave deals that are unrealistic, and that's probably all I should say about it.
I just heard about it in the news.
Yeah, it's all over the news. And I know him. I know that he has great agents there, great people. Yeah. Several of them are friends. I hate to see it happen, but he screwed up.
Damn.
And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So when you go to buy companies, what do you look for?
Oh, we do a complete forensic look into all the financials, both escrow and operating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we want to make sure no one's skimming out of escrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe, and I hope the governor hears this, I believe that the state should be auditing all real estate brokerages' books annually. And it shouldn't be a quick audit. It should be turn over all the bank statements. I don't give a damn. In fact, I invite them for the state auditors to come in and go through our books. We are down to the penny. We reconcile our escrow accounts daily. And if we miss a day, it's, might be the next day.
Yeah.
But normal accounting practices, you have to reconcile monthly when you get statements. We reconcile daily.
Yeah.
We would never even think of going into an escrow account. But I'll tell you something. I bet he's not the only one that's done it.
I was gonna say.
I know he's not. I was
gonna say how many people do you think would agree with you on that? There's
not
probably
many.
so many who.
And part of what bothers me in my business, frankly.
Yeah.
Part of what bothers me is I'm over here playing the game fairly.
Right.
Following the rules.
Well, over the long term, that just means you're going to win because all that stuff ends up catching up with people.
I hope.
At least that's what I tell my kids. I'm like, listen, you're going to see people doing you're going to see kids cheat on tests. You're going to see people doing things and get away with it. Just know that it's going to come back. It might not come back the next day. It might not be a week. It might be years down the road. But life is life.
You're right.
And it gets you.
Yeah, teaching kids, that's my most important job, right?
Yeah.
I always think about that every day. I have 4 children. And I do a ton with them, and I'm very, very involved with them. And I always say to myself and my dad and my wife, we say to each other, like, this is the hardest job.
Hell yeah.
That's because with business, like, if I lose some money, you know how much money I've lost getting here, like, building this company? Money is just the object that helps you leapfrog to the next level.
Right.
You lose some. Well, you screw up with your kid, it can have dire consequences. And I do all I can, and I got to give credit to my wife. We do all we can together to give the kids a childhood that will turn them into hard workers.
Yeah.
My daughter just got a car, but I was like, I'm not just buying you a car. You are contributing. Nice. You are contributing. And my grandfather taught me, he raised me, and he used to say, when you get older, I won't be here. He literally used to say, when you get older, I won't be here, and your kids are going to college, don't pay for it outright. You make them contribute. They got to go on the hook for some.
Yeah.
And I didn't forget it, and my kids have all been informed that they are going to pay a percentage. What that percentage is going to be, I don't know. I haven't decided, but it's going to be something.
Yeah.
And I think that'll resonate in their head because it's like, you want to go to an $80,000 a year college? Well, if you're paying 10%, it's $8,000. You go to a $50,000, and if you're paying 10%, it's $5,000. Now, I don't know what percentage they're going to pay. I'm talking in hypotheticals, but I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And we make the kids work. And,
right now.
my 2 middle boys, they work at the landscape company in the summer.
Yeah.
And my daughter's working at a restaurant, and she's recently been working at Lamacchia Company's headquarters. She was working with HR. Now she's doing some work in accounting, and they're going to continue to do that.
Do you see any of them following your shoes, or?
It's a great question. I am starting to think they're having some interest. I am not going to push it at all. If they're interested, fine. I have made it a rule, and I've told some of our executives this, including Sarah, who I started the company with, and my family, that no one can work in the companies for their career without spending 2 years working somewhere else. I'm just not going to do it. And it's because I learned a lot with my dad. I think, if my dad had to do it over again, I think he probably wouldn't have pushed me so hard to get involved with him. He probably would have said, hey, you want to work somewhere else, go ahead.
Because you got involved in his landscape business.
Yeah. And my kids, they work now, but they're kids. They can't get, like my 15-year-old Mason, he can't get a job anywhere else right now, or my 14-year-old, so I want them working. But when they get to 18, 19, 20, they're going to have to go work. If one of them wants to do construction, go work at a couple other construction companies before you come into ours, And I feel the same way with all of them.
And your dad, what he did, he brought you into the business and was like, this is going to be yours one day. And wanted to keep you in there.
And funny enough, it sort of happened with me and my brother. But for 16 years, I was away. And I think there was a little bit of rebellious in there out of me.
Yeah.
When I got into real estate in 2004, my dad's only 22 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
And at that time...
So it's like me and my oldest son. Like, you're having a kid, and you're like, I'm still a kid.
Yeah.
Basically,
I mean, he was 45 when I got into real estate, and he was pissed. I mean, what didn't go over well. But then he ended up being my biggest supporter.
Yeah.
But at the time, he was pissed. And I get into real estate and I blaze my own trail. And then I ended up back involved, sort of, by 2020. But, I just think it's important that kids from family businesses work elsewhere for some period of time.
Yeah.
I think they need to learn. They need to have a boss elsewhere. I even feel that way with coaching. I was coaching my boys doing flag one year after the other, and then I said, I don't need some other parent to yell at them, some other coach to yell at them, and I backed out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense because, they might not consciously, or some of them consciously, but subconsciously, some of them are like I am not going to get fired by dad. Unless I do something stupid, egregious.
Yeah.
But if you go somewhere else and now you're working for somebody who doesn't know you the second you walk in the door and you have to prove yourself to them.
And I think my kids, and I certainly knew that getting fired was a possibility with my dad, and my kids will know that with me, but you're right in the sense that there is some element of comfort in their heads when it's a family business. And I want them to experience the outside world first. Go see how hard it is out there. Go see how it is to get a job and get an apartment and bust your ass, and then come back and talk to me. And I'll tell you, I learned that lesson when I got into real estate. I went in thinking it was going to be, all roses and butterflies, and it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
What was the biggest failure that you had that really
when I first got in, I was perplexed. I just couldn't understand why the hell in landscaping my dad could send postcards out all over Newton, and the phone would ring so much the voicemail would overflow. We do that in real estate and nobody would call. And I couldn't get it. I would do full page ads in the Newton tab, the Waltham Tribune, the Watertown tab. I'd get maybe 1 call, 2 calls. I said, what the hell? That was a tough thing to accept. And then I started realizing, okay, there's only so many people that want to sell in a year.
Right.
Branding in itself and calling people back on time in itself doesn't get you listings. In the landscape world, in the contractor world, calling people back, it helps you get business. In the real estate world, think about it. There's 9,500 realtors within the 495 belt here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
10, 12,000. There's a tremendous amount of competition.
Yeah.
So those were some tough lessons I learned. And then just everything, raising money, having enough money, having enough profit to prove to the bank that they should give you a line of credit. Then you want to grow. When you grow, you're going to eat into your profit. Then you go back to the bank. They don't want to give you a line of credit because you don't have enough profit. Yeah, but look how much I grew. Yeah, but we want to see profit. It's a battle.
Yeah.
And then you get to a bigger level like we are now, and then you get to the point people want to give you money. And I think that's something I should have put more focus into 10 years ago, which is like using private friends and people that just want to put money to work. I didn't do much of that years ago. I only did it with banks, and that restricted our growth. Now I do some of that, especially with this buying spree we went on, and it works out quite well. And it's good for the friends and, business associates because they make more money than they can make in a bank too.
So how do you sell yourself to? Do you do it to friends, or are you going to just private investors that you don't know about?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, and it's mostly just word of mouth and just like debt offerings or investment offerings. Like, hey, we'll give you 10%, and or whatever percentage we agree to, and bring money in. But then you got to make damn sure you can pay it back.
Yeah.
You got to make damn sure, and we've never defaulted on anything. We've never been late on anything, and we want to keep it that way.
That's funny. It's funny what you were saying earlier about realtors, where it's like, I think a lot of people look at it like, they almost look at it like McDonald's. They're like, oh, this realtor is the same as this realtor, as this realtor.
They're not, but people think that.
Right.
It's amazing. It's very frustrating.
Yeah. So what do you do to try and explain that to somebody who's...
Well, now I generally spend all my time explaining it to realtors how to explain it to consumers.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you have to truly understand what the buyers want and what the sellers want. Buyers want a large selection. They want good deals. They want it to be easy, for them. What company in the world has nailed large selection, good deals, and making it easy?
Yeah.
Amazon. Look how much Amazon grew, right?
Right.
So I teach the agents that, for home buyers, and then for sellers, they want the most money, but they're really worried about their timing. So when you learn how to talk to a seller about timing and making them feel good, and that they're not going to end up homeless if their home sells too fast, or their home sells immediately. That's a big concern among people right now. 15 years ago, the concern was, what if it doesn't sell and I get stuck with 2 mortgages?
Yep.
Everybody feared that, but they don't fear that now. So you have to really understand what's going on with inventory, what's going on in the market, and I work really hard every single day to make sure that our agents get that so that they can regurgitate it to clients and prospects. And, it works. Definitely works for those that are tuned in You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at your business. I mean, you started so young. You went to school in Everett?
I went to school in Everett, yeah.
And then you got into radio young, and you just busted your ass. Now you're one of the biggest radio names in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be top 3 biggest radio names, right?
Well, I'm not going to put myself on the Mount Rushmore. That would be...
That'd be awful.
I will.
That'd be,
if you want me to, I'll start naming
if you
them.
move,
No,
if
but
you
it's true.
want to.
Think about it. I mean, I remember 20 years ago, I listened to you and Pebbles, and I listened to Howard Stern, and I'd toggle back and forth.
Yeah,
if you guys went to ads, I'd go to Howard. If Howard went to ads, I'd go to you. And then I know that what's the other guy there? Matty in the Morning was a big one. And, you got to, just like me, like you have a few big competitors that you're like, they're serious competitors, but you're one of the biggest names in radio. And how old are you? You're a little older than me.
I'm 49.
49. So you're about 6 years older than me. I'm going to be 44 next month.
Oh, okay.
In April, so you can send gifts. But kidding. But you're 49, so you're 5-6 years older than me, and you've done well, and that's because you've hustled, and
That's it.
but it's like people think it's just you're like, oh, you're a charming personality because you have one. It's way more.
It's very intentional.
Oh my God! Let me tell you something. When I started rising up in the rankings, I would hear other realtors sometimes say to my face, "Oh, you're selling a lot because you're on TV. If I went on TV, I'm like, go.
Yeah.
I'll give you the phone number.
Yep.
Go. You're not going to go. They're not going to. And if they did, they wouldn't do as good because half of them can't talk, right? Like,
Yep.
And I know I sound cocky talking this way, but it's true.
No.
And if you bust your ass and you work harder than everybody else and you learn your craft inside out, you're going to do well. Look at you. Your show's already done. Now we're sitting here doing a podcast. Do you have to do this podcast?
I don't have to do this podcast.
Are you in some contract that you're forced to do it?
No.
It's his choice. But he's doing it because he knows content, educating.
Yeah.
In this, with both of our brands together, this thing will get a lot of listens.
Yeah, and I just love learning too. Like I like bringing in people that I could like learn from and hear. Everybody has a different story of how they did it.
Yeah.
Nobody has this linear.
There's a lot of similarities though.
What do you mean in similarities?
On how people become successful. Working hard, learning
yes.
their craft inside out, not just learning what they have to learn.
Right.
Failing.
You need
or bumping up against it.
Yes.
Close to it.
100%. It's like nobody has ever said, well, I grew up in this great family and then I went to high school and college and I started doing this and now I run the company. That's no. I have not met that person
Barbara
yet.
Corcoran says, a great real estate legend, says she will not invest in kids that grew up from good means.
Yeah.
She will never invest money
makes sense.
to someone who grew up wealthy.
Yeah.
And, it makes perfect sense.
You don't appreciate it because you didn't work for it.
Yeah, and even if they do appreciate it, they don't have the same level of grit and craziness in their head that they're going to be successful. And, and there's plenty of people that grow up well off and end up very successful.
Yeah.
But if you're investing money in a founder, I'm going to bet on the person who came from nothing.
Yeah. They did a study on kids of immigrants that came to America.
There you go.
And so the parents come, their kids usually blow them out of the water as far as business success.
Yeah.
Because the parents come and
blaze
they're like,
the first trail.
Yes. But the kids of those kids usually aren't as successful because unlike the parents, they're like, oh, this is kind of like life. Life is, mom and dad make money doing this, so they don't realize they have to work as hard. Whereas their parents got their, they came from, listen, you have this massive opportunity that we didn't have. You need to take advantage of it.
Well, in second generation businesses often take it to the next level. If they grew up when it was a nothing company.
Correct. Yes.
That's the difference.
Yes. Yeah.
So if they grew up when the company had...
If they saw it.
If they saw all the success and they grew up in the success with private planes and, all these other things, they're not going to have the grit. If they grew up and watched their dad grind and go through hell like I did, it makes you different. And I hope to hell my kids are like that, and that's what I work so hard for. And that's why I try to make it hard on them. And my wife's, luckily on that, we are totally on the same page.
Yeah.
She is all about they're going to work or they're not going to have money. And that's it. And that's what we work hard for. So 10 years, I'll come back and we'll talk about how they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's how I remember my kids, too. I'm like, let's see, guys, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel confident. They're smart kids. They're hardworking kids. They're doing good in athletics. And my daughter's going to be going off to college in a couple of years, and I think they're going to do well.
Do you have any kids in college right now? It's your daughter?
No,
Is your oldest?
She's my oldest, yeah.
Where's she thinking of going?
We're looking at several different schools.
Yeah.
Business schools, maybe Bentley, maybe Babson, maybe somewhere else.
Yeah.
But she's going to play field hockey. She's part of the Watertown field hockey program, and I don't know if you're up on field hockey, but they haven't lost a game in 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, they're the winningest field hockey team, second winningest in the history of the country, and the winningest in New England.
All right.
So
they're learning the work ethic.
Oh, that coach is tough, and I love her. Love her. I've known her for 25 years. I told her about 8-9 years ago, I said, you coach my daughter any way you want. She goes, God, I need more parents like you.
Yeah.
You know, but she's tough, and she's hard on them, but she loves those kids, and they're in the best shape of any other opponents they have. She makes them practice at 7 a.m. on Saturdays, and that's why they have 4 state championships in a row.
Yep.
Right? And then, then the last time they lost, before that, they had 6 in a row.
Nice.
You know, and I feel very fortunate that my daughter is able to play for her.
That's fantastic. All right, I know you got to go soon, so I'm going to ask you a couple of random questions.
I appreciate the conversation.
No, this is great. I love this. Okay, favorite quote?
I would say many, but one that hangs on my wall from Vince Lombardi, he says, doing things right is not a sometimes thing, it's an all-the-time thing. You know, you do things right all the time, and then eventually they work. Don't quote me on the exact words, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
It hangs on my wall on my desk for the last 15 years.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then there's another quote that I love about entrepreneurship, which is entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And my only edit to that would be live a decade of your life like most people won't,
right?
So that you can spend the rest of your life living like most people can't, because it is not a few-year thing. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard.
What are you thinking about? So right now you're Massachusetts, Florida. Are you thinking about taking it?
No, we're 6 states. So
you're 6 states?
Yeah, Mass, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maine, and Florida. Mass is our biggest state. New Hampshire, we sold 800 homes in New Hampshire last year.
Wow.
Connecticut, we sold about 300. Rhode Island, about 200. Maine, probably a few dozen. And then Florida, a couple hundred.
Okay.
So right now, we're very focused in New England and Florida. Eventually, I would like to build a national company. We'll see how I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so why'd you kind of skip down to Florida instead of working your way down?
Because great question. Instead of working our way down the eastern seaboard. And you know what? It might have been smarter to do that. Okay. In our business, when you open up offices contiguously so that the realtors essentially service overlapping markets. Like, for example, when I opened in Worcester, my Waltham agents and Worcester agents, if Worcester people go east 40 minutes and Waltham people go west 40 minutes, they're crossing over each other completely.
Right.
Much easier. I decided to open in Florida because I don't know any other place in the country that 1,000 people a day are moving, number one. And that number's down right now to probably 600, but it was 1,000 for years. And that is the market that we still to this day have the most outgoing referrals. So we have clients all the time that are moving down to Florida, and we help them relocate. We help people. Relocation's a big part of our business. We help people relocate all over America, Canada.
Yeah.
Last year was 10% of our sales. So we had nearly 500 people that we helped move out of the area and move into the area. So that was why we did it, and I'm happy we did it. But we're not there what we are here, so we got work to do. But we're talking to some other companies about acquiring them, and I expect us to. October will be 5 years in Florida, and it's been pretty slow growth. And now the market also went down 50% down there. The next 5 is going to be a lot better for us in Florida. I have no doubt in my mind. And we want to be up the coast, Palm Beach, Jupiter, Orlando, Jacksonville, Fort Myers, going down the other side, Naples, Tampa. We have plans to be in all those places eventually.
What state do you think you'll get into next?
Probably New York.
Okay.
Not that I'm dying to, but our business in the Berkshires, a lot of those agents have clients that go over into Chatham, New York, and sort of eastern side of New York. So I think that New York will probably be the next place that we open. And I don't know if that'll be a year or two, but it'll likely happen. There's companies that work, like, think about it. We live in an area with a lot of small states. So we serve Mass and New Hampshire, Mass and Rhode Island. Yeah. Well, there's companies out that way that serve both. One of these acquisitions that does business in New York, we'll be working with them.
Okay. If you could immediately acquire a skill, like wake up tomorrow with a new skill, what would it be?
Only be able to sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. That would be really helpful. I always have been about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But I noticed in the last few years it's more like 6 to 7 some nights is needed.
Yeah.
And I hear of people that only need to sleep 4, and I'm very jealous of them because I would be much further along if I could sleep less.
Yeah.
I'd say the other skill that I wish I had is I wish I could spell, and the fact that I can't is just because I didn't pay attention in school. I'm very good at math naturally, but spelling, forget it. It's disaster.
Yeah. I'm a 5 to 6, but I wish I could make it like 9 to 10 each night.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
No, I think it's been a great conversation, great interview, and I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Anthony Lamacchia. Thank you for
buddy.
coming in, my friend.